Back when I was a kid, my family would all meet up at my great aunt's house as she lived on a giant piece of property that ranged from about 200 or 250 acres. When you first go through the giant wrought iron gates, you drive about 2 miles through dense redwood forest until you drive into a driveway of a glorious mansion. The mansion was 4 stories and had plenty of room for everyone. Thanksgiving was a time our family loved and cherished. It was the only time all of us got together under one roof and mingled. Like most families, the kids played with the kids, the teens hung out with the teens, and the adults mingled with the adults. Except for me. In their eyes, I was the black sheep, the third wheel, the great family embarrassment. Being how they were all devout Catholics, they didn't agree with my ways of life. First of all, I played guitar, loved heavy metal, and worshipped Satan. The latter was in rebellion to my parents, a decision I soon regretted. All of the above explains why my family shunned me in embarrassment. In their eyes, I was the flaw of their nearly perfect gem, but in my eyes, I was the cream of the crop. I should have known they were planning something awful when they asked me to join them somewhere. Usually they left me to my own devices in the mansion when they went places. I was naive then, so I went with them. They drove me to the very corner of their ranch. "What the fuck are we doing back here?" I asked. My only reply was, "Shut up, you blaspheming fool!" At last we got to the destination. Sitting there was my father, mother, sister, all standing around, wearing clothes that if you saw them on the street, you'd think they were returning from a funeral. In the middle of their little semicircle of sorrow was a shallow grave. "What's that hole for?" I asked dumbly. "Take a guess, you satanic fucker," was the reply from my father. The next thing I felt was a thud in the back of my head. I hit the ground with a loud flap-like noise. Somehow I was able to turn around in spite of the excruciating pain. I turned around to see my uncle wielding a shovel, with blood on the spade, my blood. I touched the back of my head to reveal my fingers covered in blood. I suddenly grew lightheaded and passed out, and when I woke up, I inhaled dirt. Luckily for me, my family didn't know how to properly bury someone, so I was able to dig myself out. I sat there and threw up for about 15 minutes. From that point on, I had nothing but revenge stuck in my head. By the time I got back to the mansion, it was Thanksgiving night. Peering into the window, I could see all of my family sitting there saying grace like the sheep they were. Seeing them in prayer made my hatred for them and all Catholics grow. It went from a smoldering, muddled anger to a flaming, outrageous hatred. The worst part of it was, I welcomed it into what was left of my heart. I ran into the garage and quickly found my great-uncle's shotgun, sitting there, waiting for me, it seemed, beckoning, saying, "Go ahead, make the fuckers pay for what they did, or tried to do." At first, I decided against it, but then my lust for vengeance got the better of me. So I grabbed hold of the shotgun, found the ammunition in a drawer directly underneath it, and using the door connecting the kitchen to the garage, snuck into the house. My family, completely oblivious, shouted a pathetic amen into the air and started eating. My last rational thought was, "Are you insane? Put the gun down and just run away. Join a band before it's too late." That was my last rational thought. I slowly crept into the dining room, where they were all sitting in one long table. The adults were closest to me, my mother in particular. I casually walked into that godforsaken dining room. "Hi, Mom!" I shouted as I pulled the trigger, and I started laughing uncontrollably as I continued firing in the immediate direction of my family until I was empty on ammunition. My little 4-year-old cousin was crouched in front of my aunt, holding her head with pride. I pulled the shotgun up like a baseball player, getting ready to slug one out of the park, and decapitated her with one giant smack of the rifle butt. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" my father asked, wounded. He was shot in the gut. "Wrong with me?" I asked calmly. "What's wrong with you? You're the ones that tried to bury me alive. You guys are the fools that felt embarrassed by my very presence. You shall all pay." With that, I beat him with the butt of the gun until he stopped screaming. Then I beat him some more. After my realization that my entire family was dead, I threw the gun away and dined. Not on turkey, though, but on raw, human flesh. It was the best Thanksgiving I ever had.